November 7th, 1998. A day that would live with me forever. It was my 11th birthday and I only wanted one thing, but I got it. My red Game Boy Pocket in Pokémon Red, and I knew who was going to be my first friend. From the beginning, the fire type has always been one of my favorite types. However, it's also one of the rarest types with less than 100 Pokémon total throughout the entire Pokédex. And you know what the most common Pokémon type is? Well, it's water. Pokémon has a lot of water, even IGN agrees. So what's the best way for our fire friends to go ahead and combat this overwhelming amount of water? Well, that'd be by fusing. This is Pokemon Infinite Fusion, the fan game with over 175 different Pokemon combinations. And we're here today to see if we can beat a hardcore Nuzlocke using only fire types. That means if a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead. The level cap is the next leader's ace. No active items can be used in battle. And we're going to be playing on set mode. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. And if you like the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. I always appreciate the help getting more eyes on the video. But with that, let's jump into it. So, a few things to cover in this run. To ensure that I'm using fusions that I haven't gotten to use before, we're going to be starting the game with every first stage non-legendary fire Pokemon in Infinite Fusion. Once I fuse a Pokemon with a partner, I can't unfuse it. So I'll be doing my best to make the best out of whatever situation I'm being dealt with as I'm working my way through the run. Additionally, we're going to be playing on Modern Mode, which changes up the gym leader's types, wild encounters, and overall is a lot more difficult than Classic Mode. Facing off against Rando and Professor Oak's lab, we're able to take care of things fairly quickly. Over on Route 1, we find ourselves in Azurill, a Bonsly on 22, a Ralba on 2, and an Nincada in Viridian Forest. For our first official teammate, we go ahead and fuse Bonsly with Slugma for, honestly, this kind of cool Molten Rock. Up next is Magby and Ralts. By fusing them together, we get this adorable little bowl-cut duck. Now it's time for us to face off again against Rando on Route 22. He starts things off with his Shinx, and we send out Slugsy. After taking one tackle, we manage to take it down after a couple of embers. Once he sends in his Eevee, this thing starts spamming sand attacks, causing us to miss a whole lot. And despite the fact that we resist its only attacking move, we actually get down pretty low in the process. But ultimately, we take it down, and Rando scampers off to parts unknown. Before facing off against Brock, we grab a Cleffa as well as an Elekid. And let's finish our party before we head into the gym battle. Fusing Vulpix with Elekid, we get this really cool Elipix. And we really need more fire electric types. Now it's time for us to face off against Brock and his team of steely lads. He starts things off with this regular, ordinary duck, and we send an Elipix. One shock puts this duck to bed, leading into his ace, Steve Jr. An Ember does about 30%, and he copies it, activating our Flash Fire. Thanks, Brock. At another 2, take it down for our first badge. After we grab our fish, we see Nurse Joy outside Mount Moon tending to this wounded Geodude. After discussing some treatment options, Brock bursts onto the scene, grabbing the Geodude and running off into the sunset with it. Weird. We grab a Tyrogue in the cave, and our little magma bug grows ahead into a magma tree. Next, we choose up Ponyta with Clefairy, and this riff on Galarian Ponyta is adorable. After that, Torchic and Magikarp give us this fish with very dead eyes. But look at his cute little feetsies. Once we get to the end of Mount Moon, we see Team Rocket attempting a triple fusion. While that sounds super cool, it's probably super evil, but fortunately for us, their machine explodes and they all call not it, scattering off to the wind without cleaning any of it up. But we face off against Rando again, we evolve our fish a few more times into this awesome Gomodos. And look at his little feetsies he has! Next, Ralby evolves into Kirby! And finally, Clefta evolves into a slightly bigger Clefta. We see Rando flying a kite over Nugget Bridge. After we say hi, he shudders at our presence and the kite goes crashing into the river below. He says we did it on purpose and we shall pay for our kite murder, challenging us to a battle. Rando sends out Cottonix, seeding up our slug as an Incinerate does massive damage. On the next turn, Rando heals up and we do the same thing again. And after we take some decent damage from a Spark, we finish it off. Solavi's out next and we swap into Gomodos. A Sidewave does decent damage, and a Bite gets it deep way into the red before activating its berry. After another round of bites, we take it out, leading into Nanard. The bug throws some rocks at us, but it and Phoebus both go down pretty quickly, and we're moving on to Bill. Over in Bill's lab, we see him performing an experiment to see if splicers work on humans. Turns out they do, and how is he the first person to test this out? After helping him reverse the fusion to a sleeker, human form, he assures us that he's still back in some rocks somewhere. Gross. Before facing off against Misty, our Elapix evolves into an Electabuzz, and Kirby is a monster. With that, it's time to face off against Misty and her ice Pokemon. She starts off with this bunny, and we send in our fox. An Ember does about 60% and gets the burn, while it lowers our speed. On the next turn, she heals up, but after another, we finish it off. Her ace Manras is out now, so we swap into Comodos, taking some big damage from a Bubble Beam. After missing our first attack, we get knocked down to our Berry before connecting with a Rock Tomb for about half. On the next turn, we get lucky, scoring a crit and our second badge. Making our way over to Vermilion City, we catch ourselves a bunch of new friends, and then over to our boat party to see Rando once again. Turns out he took a part-time job as a waiter on a ship because he blew all his money on splicers trying to repeat Bill's experiment with himself on a Diglett, but it didn't catch for some reason. With Cottonoxio out first, our pony scores a huge hit with a flame charge. After Rando heals back up, another two manage to take it down in short order. Out next is Nenard, and his focus staff saves it from getting KO'd in one, but on the next turn, we take it down too. We smooched Solavi a few times to heal up the damage we've taken so far, but after a handful of those, we managed to stay topped off as he sends in this gooey fish. And we quickly finish that off too. Now it's time for us to take on Surge and his fighting Pokemon. He starts off with a Nose Key, and we send in Comodos. Knowing this thing is sturdy, I start off with Flame Charge to raise my speed, before we take it down on the next turn. Coughloom takes a hit from us pretty well as we do some decent damage getting it into the red. After he heals up 2 more hits, take it out as he leads into his ace Houndblade. A Brick Break does huge damage and a bite gets us pretty low, but one final smack lands us a Thunder Badge. As we work our way over to Lavender Town, we catch a bunch of new friends and we evolve our Abomination into the lovely Gardevoir. In Pokemon Tower, we run into Rando holding some binoculars, saying he's doing some important investigation work that we're interrupting. Sending out his Grassy Cat, we go in and send in our Pony. After getting paralyzed, we manage to break through for the KO in a few turns. Axgon is out next, and after a smooch, he has to send in his Duo-V. We do some decent damage with a Flame Charge, and you'd never know we were paralyzed with the maxed out speed. Lots of luck, and we managed to take care of business pretty quickly. And this poor little fish. Litzel comes out next, and after 2 he goes down while we kiss our way back to full health. Nenard is his final Pokemon, and after a Bug Bite, we do manage to miss out on a turn, but after another 2 rounds, we finish it off, defeating Rando yet again. After the battle, Rando lets us know he's been following some Team Rocket Grunt around, and right on cue, we hear a couple screaming at this older dude from across the room. Before we can interfere with their bullying, they drag him upstairs, and Rando lets us know that we need to head to Celadon to give some information to his client. Wait, so this was all real? On our way to Celadon, we grab a Sneasel and a Mimikyu, fusing the former with a Cyndaquil for the adorable Cyndaquil. After evolving it a few times, we get the excellent Tyvil. Needs more fire and ice, too. Now at the level cap is level 37, we can evolve a lot of our dudes into their final forms, with Comodos evolving into Blasdos. Up next is Mimikyu with our puppy, and this dog is absolutely precious. We then take our Eevee, turning it into a Flareon, and then fuse it with a Zoomerl for this adorable Floril. And he just wants to say hello. Okay, so many fusions. Hitmonlee with Talonflame goes us ahead and getting us this angry bird. And our Electabuzz can evolve into the amazing Electatails. I love the lightning arcing off the sprite. Heading over to the Celadon gym, we find Rando fighting off a couple of Rocket Grunts. After he takes them down, they retreat into the sewer, explaining to us he's going to continue tracking them as soon as he heals back up to the Pokemon Center. He runs off. Thanks for finding him, Rando, but I can take it from here. After fighting our way through their secret base, we find Erica, who I guess hired Rando in the first place. She's already been beaten by Giovanni, and now it's us to stop Big Daddy Geo. He starts things off with a Houndzing, and we send in Talonflame. A Flame Charge does basically nothing as a Sludge Bomb tears into us. A Brick Break does about 50%, and we're knocked down pretty low. Healing back up with Roost, we eventually swap over to Close Combat, getting this thing way down into the red, only for Giovanni to heal back up. Down to only 6 HP, apparently YOLO, as we go for another Close Combat, doing just under 50%. Swapping into Type File, a Sludge Bomb does about 30%, and it poisons us. A Night Slash basically does nothing, and now we're low enough for a Berry to activate. Swapping to Brick Break, we get it down pretty low, but at only 24 HP, we swap into Mimiknife. A Fire Fang gets it down deep into the red, with a second one taking it down. Ketgon is up next, and I know this thing has Rock Slide. Swap into Blastos to get the Intimidate off, going for a Brick Break, doing some pretty big damage, only to get knocked out with a Dragon Tail. With Type Fill back in, the poison sets us to only 8 HP. Swapping back into Blastos, and Rock Slide does huge damage despite being lowered. Another Rock Slide gets me down to 9. Swapping into Floril. A Quick Attack does basically nothing, and with a Rock Slide, my Berry barely holds on as we survive another Rock Slide to get this KO on the big guy. Smeargar is out now, and I'm looking pretty bad, sending in Electatails. Hex does basically nothing before he spores on the next turn. Following up with another Hex, we get down really low, but then we manage to wake up, getting off the burn. Another Hex leaves us at just 15 before swapping into Mimiknife, who's our last healthy Pokemon. After one attack, we take it down, leading into Disdain, but thankfully, 2 Shadow Sneaks, and we barely beat Giovanni without any deaths. Team Rocket then packs up and leaves, and it's time for us to face off against Erica and her team of bugs. She starts off with Galvanape, and we send in our Electatails. A Flamethrower takes care of her first 2 Pokemon in 1 hit each, and her Ace Volcanics deep down into the red. On the follow-up turn, we're able to get the KO, and now we got 4 badges. Heading back over to Pokemon Tower, it turns out Mr. Fuji is the creator of the original Master Ball, and with it, Team Rocket is able to capture and fuse any Pokemon they want. Once again, while that sounds super cool, they're evil, so that's probably bad. But for now, I have an appointment with a ninja. Before facing off against Koga, we fuse our Infernape with Slaking for this chonky Inferking. Facing off against Koga and Fuchsia, he starts off with his Weiryon, but I shan't be fooled, ye be a Zoric. Inferking does okay damage with a Feint attack, and I take a lot more than I thought from 2 Dark Pulses. After we burn through his potions, a few Flaming Fists take this guy down. With Aptop lowering my attack, I swap into Floril, with the Close Combat doing very little to us. Returning fire with a Play Rough, we manage to take it out. Haunch Fire is up next, doing some decent damage to us with a Drill Peck, but once again, Play Rough. The real Weiryon comes out, hitting us for massive damage with a Sludge Bomb, and after we get it just under half, we swap into our Fox, who's able to finish things off after a couple of rounds, earning our Soul Badge. Moving on to Silphco, we run into Rando, who's using some enhanced interrogation tactics on a Rocket Grunt. When we tell him that the Grunt's had enough, he tells us that he'll let us know when he's had enough. And then we battle. Because Rando. Starting off with his Whimsray, our Big Monkey punches it, sending into next Tuesday, leading into his Fragon. A Feint Attack does okay damage, and this guy just keeps on missing us, so after a few more slaps, he sends in his Magtick. A Thunder Punch gets it down deep into the red, and we barely hold on from a Surf. Following up with the second punch, we manage to take it down. With Vaporeon comes in, we go a switch into Mimiknife, avoiding a Psychic. After 2 Shadow Claws, we take it down, while getting knocked down to around half ourselves. Lampstill is out next, and after we get it down deep into the red, we have to swap, sending in Floril. Not sure why it used Ice Beam on an all-fire team, but it goes down quickly enough, and Ninard only takes 2 before it goes down as well. I'm not sure why I made Rando a gritty detective on the edge of the law this time, but I don't make the rules, and Rando doesn't follow them. We find Giovanni interrogating the Sylph president regarding Master Ball production. After seeing us enter the room, Rando tells him that the jig is up, but Giovanni says that the jig has only begun. Starting off a double battle, we score an Oko on this very annoying sword, but Whimsray goes down in just one as well. With Kekon out, I go for a close combat, getting it down so low, and a rock slide manages to leave us with 1 HP. And then a Sludge Bomb takes on our first mon of the run. Such a huge loss. Sending in Talonly, Giovanni heals back up, and a Brick Break does some pretty good damage, with a dragon dropping down some rocks. A second Brick Break takes down the dragon as Haunting KOs another one of Rando's Pokemon. Donzor is out now, and this thing is an absolute nightmare for my team, going for a Flame Charge to boost our speed, but it's all in vain as I get doubled into losing my second mon of the run. Sending in Blastos to lower its attack, and Aqua Tail gets it down to basically nothing, and I get slammed down pretty low, but I'm in an okay spot with my berry, and his Life Orb takes care of the rest. With only Haunting left, we're able to double into it, taking it down, driving Giovanni and the Rockets out of Sylphco. With all that taken care of, the Sylph president gives us an alligator, and it's time for us to face off against Sabrina in her fairy-type dream. She starts things off with the Togatails, and we send in Blastos. An Air Slash manages to get the flinch off, which is annoying, but after one Dragon Dance, we get the one-shot. Next up is Marikyu, and the same thing happens here. Silpar manages to stick around after one hit, but after healing up, we manage to take it down in 2 more turns. Her Ace Clefix can be a problem for many reasons, but we manage to power through with the power of Tiny Feet, ending the battle after just a few turns, and only 9 HP remaining. Before moving on to Blaine, the level cap allows us to get our Electatail fully evolved into the awesome Electatails. But look at that Biju Ball! With that, it's time for our 7th gym fight against Blaine and his team of psychic Pokemon. He starts things off with this Ball Pit, and we send in our Weasel. A Flame Charge is about 60%, and he loves it so much, he wants to see us do it again for the KO. Zykin comes out next, protecting on the first round. Still stuck in that Encore, we do about 40%, and a Flare Blitz does a lot more than I expected. But he does hurt himself. After healing back up, we get in one more hit before swapping into Blastos, taking a Sky Uppercut. We take a second one, activating our berry, and we kick it with our little beady feet for the KO. His Ace Galchomp comes in next, and a Psychic Gem boosted Psycho Cut knocks us to only 8 HP. And thank God I did not go for an attack there, because I would have killed myself with Rough Skin. Swapping into Floral, a cut gets us down to about 60%, and I don't anticipate the Earthquake going down. In a rough spot, I swap in the Type Vial, hoping for a crit with Night Slash, but we don't get it, losing our second Pokemon of the battle. Sending in our good boy, we managed to score a crit with Shadow Claw for the KO. Forgetting I haven't even fought this thing yet, Octotor comes out, but after 2 more hits, we managed to get our Volcano Badge. Before heading into the Zapalcuno fight, we need to fill our team back out, adding in our Gardevoir fusion as well as our tree, evolving them both into their final forms. Over in Mount Ember, we find the Team Rockets managed to not only capture all 3 legendary Kanto birds, but their triple fusion machine is now working. Who knew? And with the power of triple fusion comes the game-breaking ability to attack 3 times in a single turn. What could we do against such an impossible foe? Well, my Fox has something to say about your game-breaking bullshit. It's called Discharge, you jerks. A lot of people tend to have problems with this fight, and this isn't a great example because Moltres is constantly roosting, but this fight isn't that bad overall if you have something like Discharge or Rock Slide. Until after you use Tailwind, you always have priority in this fight. Never forget that. But after taking care of that, the birds defuse and scatter to the wind, and so does Giovanni. It turns out that the final gym leader is actually been Giovanni this whole time. But since we weren't in the building the last 3 times I beat him, it didn't count. He starts off with Disdain, which works out because I'm able to get out the Dragon Dance for free, scoring the Oko on the next turn. And the same thing happens for his next 2 Pokemon, leading into King, who takes an Aqua Tail like a boss. And then goes for Retaliate, KOing our best Pokemon. Setting in our Doggo, we go for a Play Rough, doing some decent damage, and we avoid the Shadow Claw with our Disguise. Not wanting to get hit for real, I swap into our Horse, doing some okay damage, and after activating our Berry, a Flamethrower manages to take it down. Mapam is honestly super annoying, and a double hit manages to KO my little pony. Gardevoir comes in and he heals up for reasons, but a Psychic takes it down in 1, and with that, we earn our final badge. Before facing off against Rando again, we need to fill our team back up, taking our Celadon Eevee and fusing it with Houndour, and then evolving all the way into the adorable Vapordoom. Next, we fuse Charmander with Axew, evolving it all the way into the terrifying Charis. Now, it's time for us to face off against Rando on Route 22, and I always forget that he leads off with Fremennis this fight and not his Shinx. Going for a Will-O-Wisp, we barely managed to hold on after an Earthquake, swapping in the Gardevoir. Next turn, he goes for a Fly, so we set up a Calm Mind, knowing we're faster, taking the hit. On the following turn, we smooch him for the KO. Ryourion is out next, going for a Kiss, we do some decent damage, and a Dart Pole hits us pretty hard, but after another 2 kisses, we manage to seal his fate. Windsor is out next, and a Flamethrower puts it down quickly enough. Magtic is next, barely taking his Psychic as a Hydro Pump is a lot less than I expected, honestly. I tell Landfall to pucker up, but then he tries to get small, but nobody escapes the lips of a Magma. Nenard comes in last, protecting on the first round, but even with its berry, this is the one-shot, baby. Over on Victory Road, we grab our Entei, and let's finalize our team before we move on to the league. Fusing our Entei with Aegislash, we get the awesome Agitay. Now that we're ready for the league, let's take a look at our final team. First up, we have Vapordoom, with Nasty Plot, Flamethrower, Ice Beam, and Surf. Mimiknight with Thunderfang, Play Rough, Shadow Claw, and Fire Fang. Gardevoir with Draining Kiss, Psychic, Flamethrower, and Calm Mind. Electabuzz with Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, Hex, and Will-O-Wisp. Charis with Dragon Dance, Earthquake, Dragon Claw, and Flame Blitz. And finally, Agitay with Sacred Sword, Sacred Fire, Iron Head, and Swords Dance. First up is our biggest obstacle with Lorelei and her water Pokemon. I was saving my second Eevee specifically for this fight, but I started off with Choris going for a Dragon Dance. After taking a Hydro Pump, a Thunder Punch gets it down deep into the red, and after her first heal, we managed to get the KO. Her next 2 Pokemon also go down in 1, but with a Waterfall, we're pretty low now, so we're going to swap into Vapordoom. Going for an Ice Beam, we break the Disguise, and we tank a Play Rough. And we don't really have any super good options attack-wise, so a Stab Surf is honestly our best bet. After getting her down to about half, she heals up, and after 3 turns and getting to about half ourselves, we take it down. Pikachu is out now, and I hate this thing. After poisoning us and doing some chip damage, it just starts spamming Destiny Bond. Swapping into Agitay, I keep on avoiding killing it until Ironhead gets the flinch, and then I know it's safe to get the KO. Her 8th Milotina comes in going for an Ironhead. We don't get the flinch, but it does miss, so we swap back into Vapordoom. After a few Ice Beams, we manage to freeze it, swapping into Mimiknight. Going for a Play Rough, we luck out that it doesn't thaw, and after another 2, we defeat Lorelei. Up next is Bruno and his rock types. Another tough match for us. Setting in Vapordoom, I go for a Nasty Plot as he sets up the rocks. A Rock Slide does big damage to us, we follow up with a one-shot from Surf. Next up is Marorier, and a ×4 weakness means that the Sandstorm ain't helping. Kingron holds on with its Sturdy, and a Stone Edge takes out our first Pokemon of the league. Sending in Agite, I know that he's going to heal, so I go for a Swords Dance, and a Sacred Sword gets it low. And the EQ takes out my Legendary. Well, that was kind of a waste. Then Midnight is out next, and after Bruno heals up again, I don't do nearly enough for either of these attacks. Thank God for Disguise, as we can take it out in a few more hits. Karolov is out now, we managed to get the burn off, which is great, and a Stone Edge puts us just below half. We knock it down super low, and he U-turns out into Armazor. Going for a Fire Fang, I was hoping for a burn or a crit, but instead, my third Pokemon goes down. Setting in Charis, I go ahead and set up a Dragon Dance because YOLO at this point, and a Stone Edge gets me to just 50 HP, and that's with my berry. Aerodon, his ace, comes out next, and thank God for Eruption. We hold on with just 21 HP for the KO, and with only 7 left after the Sandstorm. Karolov then goes down to the burn, and we move on to Agatha by the skin of our teeth. Agatha is a poison trainer in this mode, which honestly is perfect for our Lip Lady. I know Clinkfish doesn't have any directly attacking moves, so I take the time to stack up 6 Calm Minds as it just throws spikes at me. And after it heals up once, we take it down. At this point, I'm at +6, and Agatha's entire team is weak to Psychic, so with the exception of Clefairy, literally none of them can take more than 1 hit. And we're on to Lance. Now, aside from Lance's Dragonite, he's a flying trainer in this mode, starting off with the Toga Flame. Going for Gardevoir, my strategy is the same here, stacking Calm Minds. He swaps in the Snorkel, who is a Toxic Orb, and after a Facade leaves us at only 13 HP, we manage to take it down after he heals a few times. Up next is Dark Knight, and after a times 4 Draining Kiss, we get back to nearly full. Toga Flame is back out next, and after we drain it to heal, we go back to one-shotting everything, and we take him down pretty quick. And now only Rando remains. With only 3 Pokemon going into the toughest battle of the main game, I am not super psyched about this. He starts off with Ninsharp, and I send in my Charis. Going for a Dragon Dance, he uses a Swords Dance. After we stack 3, he baton passes into Hax Menace, who takes one of my stacks away, but thankfully, we still get the one-shot. Luxius is out next. I assume he's going to retaliate, but he uses a Thunderbolt instead, and I just go back to stacking more dances as he knocks me below half. After he heals back up, his Life Orb damage he did to himself, and EQ takes it down. Ryurion is up next, and we barely manage to hold on, but after he heals up, we get paralyzed. Assuming I'm dead, we go for an EQ, but we manage to crit this time, taking it down. Torterneon is out next, and my paralysis prevents me from attacking, and a Scald takes us out. Sending in Electabuzz, a couple of Thunderbolts take it down pretty low before he heals back up. A close combat hits us for some pretty big damage, but after one more hit, we manage to take it out. Chandelvile is out now, and after missing its first blizzard, we get it down deep into the red before we eventually get taken out. With only Gardevoir remaining, we take it down with a Psychic, and Ninsharp comes back in, and after a surprising number of flinches against us, we take it down. And with that, we become the Kanto Pokemon League champions. And that is how I beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Infinite Fusion using only fire types. If you liked the video and you made it this far, make sure you show your support by liking the video and subbing if you haven't already. But thanks again for checking out the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.